Hello class, good morning. I am Jessica S. Gonzalez, your teacher for today. So this is our learning objectives for today's session. So at the end of the lesson, the student should be able to identify content-based instruction and its importance. So today we will be tackling about the content-based instruction. According to Snow 1991, content-based instruction as a method with many phases, both to make the case for content-based instruction as a method of language teaching and to portray the great variety of forms and settings in which it takes place. So, the intention is likely to highlight the flexibility and applicability of this method across various educational settings and subject matters. In addition, Komarovidelo 1993 observed that the term task is often used with reference to both content and methodology of language teaching. Indeed, within the strong version of a communicative approach, the traditional separation of syllabus design and methodology is blurred. If students learn to communicate by communicating, then the destination and the route become one and the same. So when we say syllabus design, it focuses on what of language learning, the content and its organization, while methodology focuses on the how, the methods and approaches used to teach that content effectively. Komarovedelo 1993 points out that when the students learn to communicate by actively engaging in communication, as suggested by Bren in 1984, the distinction between the destination, learning the language, and the route, the method of teaching becomes unified, as expressed by Noonan in 1989. This implies a seamless integration of language learning objectives with the practical means of achieving them through communication-based tasks. For instance, the content taught in the language course designed for airline pilots would differ significantly from that in a course for computer technicians. This specialization is commonly referred to as teaching a language for specific purposes, such as language for aviation or language for technical professions. In academic setting, it might be termed teaching language for academic purposes, indicating a focus on the language skills needed in an academic context. The special contribution of the content-based instruction is that it's not exclusively a language program, but instead, it integrates the learning of language within the learning of some other content. In essence, CBI goes beyond merely teaching language. It incorporates the learning of language skills within the context of another field or discipline, enhancing both language proficiency and knowledge in a specific area. It has been observed that academic subjects provide natural content for language study. Such observation motivated the language across the curriculum movement for native English speakers in England, which was launched in the 1970s to integrate the teaching of reading and writing into all other subject matters. So, the objective of this movement was to seamlessly incorporate the teaching of reading and writing skills into all academic subjects beyond traditional language classes. In essence, the idea was to recognize that language skills are essential for comprehending and expressing ideas in various academic domains. By integrating language instruction into subjects like science, history, or mathematics, students not only enhance their language proficiency but also acquire the ability to communicate effectively within the specific context of each academic discipline. This approach aims to break down the traditional separation between language learning and other subjects, emphasizing the interconnectedness of language skills and academic content. In Canada, second language immersion programs in which Anglophone children learn their academic subject in French have existed for many years. So, in Canada, second language immersion programs involve Anglophone, which means English speaking children learning academic subject in French. This program has been established for an extended period, allowing students to immerse themselves in the French language while studying various academic topics. The goal is to enhance bilingualism and language skills among students in a diverse linguistic context. In the United States, content based instruction was begun to help English language learners in public school. It had been found that when English language learners were put in regular school classes with native speaker of English, some English language learners did not master either content or English. So, it was observed that placing English language learners in regular classes with native speakers lead to challenges, as some students struggle to grasp both the subject matter and English language simultaneously. Conversely, delaying academic content until after English proficiency was achieved was also problematic. To address these issues, instructor adopted content-based instruction, where they teach academic subjects like history or science while simultaneously instructing the associated language. This way, language become a medium through which students learn the content, aiming to enhance both language skills and academic understanding. In the European context, a comparable instructional approach is known as the content and language integrated learning. According to Marsh, content and language integrated learning is defined as any educational setting where an additional language, typically not the learner's first language, serve as the medium for teaching non-language content. This method is neither solely focused on language acquisition nor on subject learning. Instead, it represents a blend of both. Essentially, content, language, and integrated learning aims to integrate language and content learning concurrently, emphasizing a dual focus educational experience. The widespread implementation of the content and language integrated learning in countries like Estonia, Finland, Latvia, the Netherlands, and Spain reflects a growing trend in language and content learning. CLIL involves teaching academic subject using a foreign or second language, aiming to develop language proficiency alongside subject specific knowledge. Since content based instruction and content language integrated learning are growing rapidly, it would be good to interject a note of caution here. The teaching of language to younger and younger learners has taken place around the world, partly because governments are not satisfied with what is achieved in language study, and partly because the young learners' parents naturally want their children to have the opportunities in life that knowledge of another language potentially affords. It is important to exercise caution and consider two crucial factors. First, children should establish literacy in their native language before being introduced to another language for reading and writing. This foundation in their first language serves as a strong basis for future language learning and cognitive development. Second, it is essential to consider how children learn and tailor language programs accordingly. Research by Cameron 2003 and the California State Department of Education 2010 emphasized the significance of understanding children's learning process and adapting instructional methods to meet their needs. Simply, starting language instruction at an earlier age does not guarantee better outcomes. It is crucial to align language instruction with age appropriate methodologies, taking into account children's cognitive and linguistic development. By carefully considering these factors and integrating research based practices, we can optimize language learning experiences for young learners while acknowledging the importance of their native language literacy and developmental needs. Naturally, when students do study academic subject in another language, they will need a great deal of assistance in understanding subject matter texts and learning to use the academic language associated with the subject. Therefore, teacher must have clear language objective as well as content learning objectives for their lessons. For instance, in planning to teach the concept of quadratic equations, a teacher might construct the following possible outcome statement. Student will be able to solve quadratic equations, discuss different methods of solving the same quadratic equations, and write a summary of each method. Solve, discuss, and write are the descriptive verbs that determine whether a particular outcome address the knowledge and skill of a content area or a specific language function. Solving a quadratic equation describe a content outcome, whereas discussing and writing about the method used to solve a quadratic equation describe language outcomes related to the content. Let us now see what principles underlie content-based instruction by answering our usual 10 questions and considering a number of additional principles. What are the goals of teacher who use content-based instruction? In CBI class, teacher wants the students to master both language and content. The content can be themes of general interest to students, such as current event or their hobbies, or it can be an academic subject which provides natural content for the study of language. Teachers do not want to delay students' academic study or language study, so teachers encourage the development of both simultaneously. What is the role of teachers and what is the role of the students? The teacher needs to set clear learning objectives for both content and language. The teacher then creates activities to teach both, scaffolding the language needed for the study of the content. The student's role is to engage actively with both content and language, using each other to learn the other. What are some characteristics of the teaching learning process? Teachers must help learners understand authentic texts. Teachers make meaning clear through the use of visuals, realia, repeating and by giving a lot of examples, building on students' previous experience. Teacher can also design activities that address both language and content, and the discourse organization of the content with specific language activities, highlighting how language is used in a particular subject of mathematics differs from the language for history. What is the nature of student-teacher interaction? What is the nature of student-students interaction? The teacher guides students' learning. She supports them by having students pay attention to how language is used to deliver content and by scaffolding their language development. Students often work collaboratively to understand content while actively using the language they are studying. How are the feelings of the students dealt with? It is assumed that learning content and language together keeps students interested and motivated. They understand the relevance of what they are studying and that language is a means to an end. How is the language viewed and how is culture viewed? Language is meaningful and a medium through which content is conveyed. Culture is addressed in teaching to the extent that it is present in the content area being studied. What area of language are emphasized? What language skills are emphasized? The content determines what language is worked on. The language includes not only vocabulary items and grammar structures, but also how these contribute to the discourse organization of text. All four skills are integrated in authentic context. What is the rule of the student's native language? There is no overt rule for the student's native language. How is evaluation accomplished? Students are evaluated on their knowledge of content and their language ability. How does the teacher respond to students' errors? The teacher corrects students' errors by giving students the correct form or allowing students to self-correct. She notes the errors and recycles content to ensure that students are learning to use language they will need in a school context. Teacher preparation programs play a vital role in preparing teachers for content-based instruction implementation. By equipping educators with content and language knowledge, teaching skills and understanding of integrated instruction rationale, and practical experience in lesson design, teacher preparation programs can empower teachers to effectively implement content-based instruction and provide students with a rich and meaningful learning experience. So here are some examples. Sheltered Instruction Observation Protocol, developed by Short and Echevarria in 1999 as a tool to assist teacher in implementing effective practices. Sheltered language instruction, as observed in the lesson, is designed to support students by employing specific instructional techniques and materials. This may include activities aimed to building a specialized vocabulary using graphic organizers to visually represent concepts, and employing close activity where students fill in missing words. The adjunct model is a specific approach used at the university level in content-based instruction. In this model, students enroll in a regular academic course and in addition, take a language course that is directly linked to the content course. The language course is designed to support students in processing the language used in the academic content presented by the content teacher. Example, in a literature course, students analyzing a novel. They have linked language course where the language teacher provides language support. So as a language teacher in adjunct models, you need to help students understand literary devices such as metaphor, symbolism, or foreshadowing used in the novel. The language teacher facilitates discussions in the language class where students can express their interpretation of the novel, analyze character development, or discuss themes and motifs. The language teacher assists students in writing critical essays about the novel, offering guidance on structuring arguments, incorporating textual evidence, and refining their writing style. In the language class of the adjunct model, the language teacher main focus is to help students understand and engage with the academic content by providing language support. This support can take various forms, such as helping students improve their comprehension, facilitating discussion related to the content, and clarifying key concept or academic vocabulary. The language teacher also assists students in completing academic tasks that are part of the content course, such as writing term papers, improving note-taking skills, and effectively reading academic textbook assigned by the content teacher. The key features that all CBI models share is the integration of a specific content knowledge and development of related language skills. In other words, CBI aims to provide students with the dual benefit of acquiring both subject-specific knowledge and improving their language proficiency. By immersing students in content-rich contexts, CBI enables them to learn the target language through meaningful and authentic contexts, which enhance their language skills in a relevant and purposeful manner. The quote by Witchy 1993 captures the essence of CBI by suggesting that students receive a two-for-one benefit. Through content-based language teaching, students gain not only valuable content knowledge but also an increased level of language proficiency. This integrated approach recognizes the interconnectedness of language and content and leverage the learning potential that arise from their simultaneous development. Overall, the adjunct model within CBI at the university level provides students with a comprehensive learning experience by combining content courses with linked language course. Students are supported in acquiring both subject-specific knowledge and language skills, ultimately enhancing their academic and linguistic competences. The whole language approach is a teaching methodology that has been utilized with second language learners as well. This approach emphasizes the holistic nature of language, considering it as a complete entity rather than focusing solely on individual components such as vocabulary, grammar, or pronunciation. In the whole language approach, students are encouraged to understand the overall meaning of a text before delving into the specific linguistic elements within it. This top-down approach means that students initially focus on comprehending the message and purpose of the text rather than analyzing the language forms in isolation. This approach differs from the bottom-up approach found in other language teaching methods, where students learn language piece by piece and then assemble these pieces to construct meaningful text. Instead, the whole language approach prioritizes meaning making and comprehension as the foundation of language learning. The whole language approach assumes that learners will acquire language more effectively when they engage in purposeful and meaningful language use, rather than solely focusing on language forms for their own sake. This approach encourages students to use language in authentic and meaningful contexts, such as discussions, debates, presentation, or writing activities. By immersing learners in meaningful language experience, the whole language approach aims to develop their overall language proficiency, including listening, speaking, reading, and writing skill. The approach recognizes that language is a tool for communication and understanding, and it promotes language learning as an integrated and meaningful purposes. The whole language and content-based instruction educators embrace the ideas of Vygotsky 1978 about the social nature of learning. As a social process, it is assumed that learning is best served by collaboration between teacher and students and among students. According to Vygotsky, it is through social interaction that higher order thinking emerge. The place where this is most likely to be facilitated is in the zone of proximal development. Zone of proximal development is the distance between the actual developmental level of the learner, as determined by the independent problem solving, and the level of potential development, as determined through problem solving under adult guidance or in collaboration with more capable peers. In conclusion, content-based instruction with all its many phases offers teacher a way of addressing issues of language and content learning and allows students to make ongoing progress in both. This can provide an efficient manner of learning, ensuring that students are not left behind while learning language or while learning content. For this reason, content-based instruction can also be an effective way for students to learn language in the language class, using themes that students find of interest. Such themes provide sustained motivation beyond intermediate level of proficiency and prepare students, if they choose, for the transition to the content area classes in school, college, or university. So that's it for today's discussion. See you next meeting. Thank you.